Titanic's famous orphan twins have a darker backstory than history let on. Two toddlers arrived unaccompanied on the deck of the Carpathia along with the other 700 survivors of the sinking RMS Titanic. When the authorities tried to determine who the boys belonged to, every bit of information they uncovered revealed an even stranger tale. The Titanic Orphans survived a sinking ship, and that wasn't even the darkest moment of their childhood. Before we begin, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell for more amazing videos. A 3-year-old boy opened his eyes to the bright daylight of the morning. He stirred and looked around. First, he registered the rocking of the boat beneath him. Then the memories of the previous hours fluttered back. And next thing he knew, he and his little brother were tossed into a burlap bag and carried onto another big ship. However, this one hadn't looked familiar, like the one he had been on with his dad. There wasn't much time to linger on that, though. As the boy remembered, "I thought it was extremely incorrect to be in a burlap bag." Only a 3-year-old would have such a reaction hours after surviving the sinking of the Titanic. No family members were awaiting the boys' arrival in New York, though because they spoke French, it was suspected their relatives were overseas. In the meantime, fellow French-speaking first-class passenger Margaret Hayes volunteered to care for the boys temporarily. Newspapers published a photo of the boys that circulated rapidly. The response was overwhelming. For many families searching for answers, the boys were a final glimmer of hope that their loved ones had survived the Titanic. Iowa resident Frank Leffler went all the way to New York in hopes that the Titanic Orphans were 2 of his children. Ultimately, his arrival only confirmed the terrible truth. His wife and 4 children had died on the ship. None of the people searching for their loved ones stateside proved to know the little boys. Finally, though, word reached a mother named Marcelle Corretto in France, who was frantic over her missing sons, so she boarded a ship to New York at once. On May 16, 1912, Marcelle hugged her sons at long last. It was a tremendous relief to find them alive, considering the circumstances of their departure. The boys vanished as a result of a kidnapping. The boys' real names were Michael Jr. and Edmond Navratil. They lived in Nice, France with their mother and spent the weekends with their father, Michael Navratil. Leading up to the Titanic voyage, the kids had spent Easter holiday with him. Navratil took the extra time to flee with his sons as an act of revenge against his ex-wife. He'd purchased 3 second-class tickets on the Titanic and escaped with the boys to Monte Carlo. When the holiday ended and her children and ex-husband were nowhere to be found, Corretto was devastated. Within a few days, Navratil, Michael, and Edmund successfully boarded the ship under false names at Southampton. There's some discrepancy over which fake identities Navratil originally invented for his sons. Some photos are marked Luis and Lola, but there's also mention of a Momon, Loto, and rather amusing Lump. All 3 used the fake surname Hoffman. Little Michael was completely unaware of his father's ruse. He was preoccupied with the grand ship. One morning, my father, my brother, and I were eating eggs in the second-class dining room. The sea was stunning. My feeling was one of total and utter well-being. The magical quality of the ship quickly deteriorated on the night of April 14th. Michael could sense the shift in the tone of the adults around him. Michael remembers his father gently waking him and his brother and tenderly bundling them in layers. When I think of it now, I'm very moved. They knew they were going to die, Michael recalled. Navratil joined the rest of the panicked passengers on the deck of the ship with his sons, looking for an opportunity to save them. In a desperate final act, Navratil managed to secure his son's seats together on the very last lifeboat, Collapsible D. Those final moments with their father deeply impacted Michael Jr., just shy of 4 years old, so that he never forgot his parting words. "When your mother comes for you, as she surely will, tell her that I loved her dearly and still do. Tell her I expected her to follow us so that we might all live happily together in the peace and freedom of the new world." Through a toddler's lens, the historical tragedy sounds even more surreal. While Navratil's traumatizing final moments unfolded, his sons drifted away in the lifeboat, being fed biscuits by strangers. Michael remembered sitting near a little girl and her dog. While Michael's recountings of this time in the Titanic are a mixture of curious bemusement, there's no doubt the disaster left a profound and serious impact on both his and Edmund's lives. The younger of the boys, Edmund, went on to serve in World War II, but passed away young at 43 years old. Michael pursued academics, where he became a doctor and professor of philosophy. Later in life, Michael participated in several Titanic survivor reunions and memorial events. As for Navratil, his body was recovered, but given the false name Hoffman on his ticket, he was misidentified and assumed to be Jewish. That resulted in his burial with the Jewish victims in Baron de Hirsch Cemetery, Halifax, Nova Scotia.